The final day of Severe Weather Awareness Week from the National Weather Service, Houston, Galveston. I'm here with Anthony to talk about beach safety today. Sadly, this has been a big topic this week for us as we lost two young boys from the Houston area down in Galveston, not too far from this pier, actually, right?
Yes, and we talked about this, and I want to stress how rare it is to actually have two people drown, because when you get rip currents, they're usually fairly narrow, so they were close to each other, and also it's rare because the waters out in Galveston are usually pretty calm. The issue is the location. Notice the jetty that you have here, and then you have Pleasure Pier. So you actually have this area where the water comes, and so what happens, just even on a calm day like this morning, you have the water rush out in the middle. So if you're swimming and you're about waist deep and you get caught in one of these rip currents, it's just a matter of seconds before you're out here. And if you can't swim, which was the case with these two young kids,
yeah,
you really are in trouble.
Police were saying that, rip currents are even tough for the most experienced, strongest swimmers.
And the issue with rip currents is really how you react to them, because most of us, we always say, hey, when you get caught in one of these, stay calm. That is so easy to say. But when your body's being pulled out and you're staying there and you have no control of what's going on, it's really dangerous. So let's talk a little bit about rip currents and what's going on. First of all, if you go out into water and you get caught in a rip current, what it does is it takes you out rapidly. There is an end. It's a shallow current, but it doesn't go on forever. You're not going to be in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico by the time it ends.
And where people make the mistake is during this process, during this point, this is when they begin to panic.
Yes.
And that's when you should not.
Even if you can swim, you panic.
Calm.
And here's the other thing that people do. This current's about 6 miles per hour. This doesn't feel very high.
Powerful.
But 6 miles per hour is really powerful, taking you out. An Olympic swimmer swims, like Michael Phelps, we're all familiar with that name, 5 miles per hour. If you're going 5 miles per hour and fighting this current that's going out 6, you're not going to make it in. And so what happens is you get exhausted, and you could be a great swimmer and you're still drowning. Now, we often say if you get caught in one of these, remain calm and then swim parallel to shore, because you are going to be able to escape this and get out of it. But again, the key is, how do you react to this? You can also notice and see these when you're out at the beach. If you're looking, you can see here's the waves coming in and out. Yeah. Do you see this clear area? That's the rip current. And so when I used to live in Southern California, they would have the lifeguards here, and it was always kind of cool to hang out with them, because they would point them out and say, look, there's a rip current forming right there. Do you see that? And you could actually see the clear area and almost see the water go out here while you're seeing that. And they would just pop in and out, and they always have those lifeguards there. And that's why it's important. If you don't know how to swim, there's two things. If you don't know how to swim, never let the water get above your knees. And the other thing is, if you do know how to swim or you have kids, swim in an area where there are lifeguards. And again, for Galveston, there's not a lot of lifeguards out there because the water's usually calm, but if you're near Pleasure Pier and you're too close to those jetties, that water is going to take you out. So there are a couple of notes here. If caught in a rip current, remain calm. Again, that is so much easier said than done. Swim parallel to the shore to escape the current. Now, if you can't escape, float or tread water. Again, these are all easy things to say. The important thing is your mindset. That's why you got to think about this now. The reason the National Weather Service does the Severe Weather Awareness Week is they want you to think about this now, even though the ironic thing is we're actually dealing with this right now in a case that happened this week. But of course, we were talking about tornadoes, flooding, and whatnot. But don't fight the current. Don't try to go back in, because you'll just exhaust yourself, even if you're an excellent swimmer. So important things to remember.
And I know something that you were touching upon earlier this week was never to swim near a pier, never to go in the water near the pier, whether there's a rip current or not. We were talking about this before we even knew what authorities were going to tell us, and this was something that you touched upon.
Well, when I heard they were swimming next to Pleasure Pier, this is the issue. You actually have a jetty and Pleasure Pier, and so you have those two waves coming in, and that's where it goes out. Yeah. So, and there's signs that says, don't swim from here to here. Do not do that. Yeah. And sometimes you do, but other times, sometimes there's just a rip current and you don't know how to swim in, which was the case here. And that's what happens.
And I know we do have a photo of those twin boys. This is a story, again, we've been following all week. 13-year-old twins, Jefferson and Josue Perez. And we now know they were swimming near the pier in water that was not very deep. Authorities said it was waist deep.
Well, if you've been out to Galveston and you go out, you can go out, honestly, 100 yards. The water never gets above your head. Right. It's so shallow here. And that's why if you're tall like me, you can kind of be like this. You get caught in a rip current, it's still taking you out, but still, It's not very deep.
Yeah.
But if you don't know how to swim, you panic, and if you're shorter, there's so much happening, and it just can happen so fast.
I was a lifeguard for about 6 years, and I remember my head coach, he would always say, you know, you're not a pretty swimmer, Zach, but you are a strong swimmer. But again, even the strongest swimmers, the most experienced swimmers, rip currents are no joke, and very serious.
And the stories that I've covered with rip currents, the sad thing is it usually almost happens to people who can't swim.
Yeah. And that's not uncommon. Having lived in Florida too, what we would do these stories, sadly, more often than we would have liked to have, but you talk to these people who live near major bodies of water, and it's surprising, it's shocking knowing the number of people who do not know how to swim.
Right.
And so it's tough, but it's good to be having this conversation now during Severe Weather Awareness Week. This has been going on all week long. Today wraps up that day. I was talking with our executive producer earlier, and I was asking her, you know, I know this Severe Weather Awareness Week is something National Weather Service chapters throughout the nation do at different times. And of course, they focus on different topics. Up north, they're not going to be focusing on beach safety when they're dealing with snow and sub-zero temperatures. But this wraps up our week here. Why don't we take a look back on what we've talked about this week?
Okay.
Monday, do you remember?
It was this.
Monday was...
Well, we talked about this because in the story.
Yes, Monday, now I'm going to get them all confused. Tornado was Tuesday. What was Monday?
I think it was... Oh, yeah.
Tiffany.
It's Friday.
Oh, Monday was heat.
Okay, heat, yes. Tuesday was thunderstorms. Wednesday was tornadoes. Yesterday was flooding.
Yes, heat, extreme heat. That's right. We talked about extreme heat, and within 3 months, we're going to be dealing with those dangerous temperatures. Yeah. Tuesday, you're right, thunderstorms. And remember, we did the little trivia. You asked me where
is safe.
Yeah, where is safe? Not the pool. Do not go into a body of water. Tornadoes.
Tornadoes Wednesday.
Tornadoes, and we talked a lot about tornadoes and how serious that was for us just 2 months ago on January 24th when we had them touch down here in Houston. Right. And we talked about the difference between a watch and a warning.
Yes.
And an emergency. Look at this. This is our little review, our Friday test.
I'm learning from you. Like, man, I felt like ages ago when we were talking about heat.
Thursday,
on Monday.
What was Thursday? Remind me.
Thursday was flooding.
Thursday was flooding, and then of course today
is this. But we actually did talk about this Monday because this is when it happened. It happened Sunday night, and we were talking about. And this is when I showed that shot. I'm like, oh, well, I know what happened. This is. Yeah. We're going to find out. This is what happened.
Okay, and before we wrap this up, we want to remind you, you can follow the National Weather Service on Twitter. They've been posting all week long, sending out very interesting and helpful tips to survive and really navigate any severe weather situations. You can see this is a live look at their handle right now, seeing all of the information they've posted throughout the week.